We're talking about the Okuma Multus U30000 2SW1500. And yes, that's a mouthful, but trust me, once you see what this machine does, you'll never forget the name. The Okuma Multus U series is what the industry calls a multitasking machine. And that's not just marketing talk. This thing combines turning, milling, and drilling all in one single setup. No moving the part from machine to machine, no reclamping, no margin for error between steps. Everything happens right here, in one shot. Here's how the piston machining process unfolds. The raw aluminum billet is loaded into the first spindle. The machine starts by rough turning the outer diameter to establish the basic shape. Fast, aggressive cuts clearing away excess material. Then it moves into semi-finish and finish turning, where tolerances tighten to within just a few microns. Next comes the ring groove machining, those precise channels cut around the piston's circumference that hold the compression and oil rings. These grooves have to be perfectly parallel and consistent, because even a tiny deviation can lead to compression loss or oil burning in the engine. The wrist pin bore is drilled and bored to exact size. This is where the connecting rod attaches, so precision here is non-negotiable. The Okuma's live tooling then kicks in to mill any flat surfaces, oil holes, and cooling gallery entries. Throughout the entire process, the machine's thermo-friendly concept technology compensates for thermal expansion in real time, keeping dimensions accurate even as temperatures fluctuate during cutting. The result? A finished piston that meets aerospace-level tolerances right off the machine, ready for the engine. Watching the Okuma Multus work is like watching a master craftsman, patient, precise, and never rushing. This is the kind of technology that makes modern engines more powerful, cleaner, and more reliable than anything our father's generation ever drove. Have you ever stopped to think about what goes into making one of those iconic chrome rims? Today, we're going behind the scenes with DMG Mori, one of the world's most respected machine tool manufacturers, to watch how a Harley-Davidson wheel rim is born. The process begins with a solid aluminum alloy forging, a rough, cylindrical blank that barely resembles what it will become. The first operation is setup and center hole drilling. The part is mounted on the machine's primary spindle, and a precision center bore is drilled. This becomes the datum reference for every subsequent operation. Get this wrong, and nothing else will align properly. From there, the machine transitions into rough turning of the outer diameter and the inner rim profile. Large amounts of material are removed quickly. You can see the aluminum chips flying as the cutting insert bites deep. The DMG Mori spindle delivers up to 10,000 RPM, maintaining consistent surface speed as the diameter changes. Next comes the spoke milling phase, and this is where it gets truly beautiful. The machine's B-axis head rotates into position, and a precision end mill begins carving out the distinctive spoke pockets. This isn't just aesthetic. The geometry of each spoke is engineered to distribute load evenly across the rim. The DMG Mori's simultaneous 5-axis interpolation means the cutter follows a perfectly smooth path around every contour, leaving a surface that barely needs finishing. The rim is then transferred to the secondary spindle, a seamless handoff with zero repositioning error, and the opposite face is machined. The valve stem hole is drilled, the bead seat surfaces are finish turned to tight tolerances, and the hub bore is bored to the exact fit needed for the bearing. Throughout the process, the part rotates between different machining perspectives: face milling, contour turning, cross drilling, each operation building on the last. The machine's integrated measurement probes check critical dimensions in cycle, so any correction happens automatically before the next cut. The final finishing passes leave a surface roughness measured in RA 0.8 or better, smooth enough that the subsequent chrome or polish process flows on like water. The finished rim emerges from the machine looking less like manufactured metal and more like a piece of jewelry. Parson is a Turkish forging powerhouse, producing automotive-grade forged steel components that supply some of the biggest names in the global car industry. We're talking steering knuckles, control arms, wheel hubs, crankshafts, and connecting rods, the kind of parts that have to be absolutely right every single time. Forging as a process is one of the oldest manufacturing methods known to man. But what Parson does today is a world away from the village blacksmith. Their production lines combine massive hydraulic and mechanical presses, some generating up to 4,000 tons of force, with automated handling systems, precision dies, and in-line quality inspection. The process starts with steel billets, cut to precise weights on automated saws. These billets are then heated in induction furnaces to temperatures around 1200 degrees Celsius. That's the point where steel becomes plastic enough to flow under pressure but hasn't yet lost its structural integrity. The heated billet is placed in the forging die and struck, sometimes in multiple progressive die stages, forcing the metal to fill the die cavity completely. The result is a part with a continuous grain flow that follows the shape of the component. This is the key advantage of forging over casting or machining from billet. The aligned grain structure gives forged parts superior fatigue strength and impact resistance. After forging, parts go through trimming to remove flash, the thin fin of excess metal squeezed out around the die. Then shot blasting cleans the surface, followed by precision machining of critical interface surfaces, bearing seats, bolt holes, and mating faces. Every finished part is inspected, dimensionally and through magnetic particle or ultrasonic testing to catch any internal defects. Because in automotive safety components, there is no acceptable failure rate. Today, we're stepping inside Britannia Fire, one of the United Kingdom's leading fire extinguisher manufacturers, to follow the entire production journey, from raw steel to finished life safety equipment. Britannia Fire has been in the business for decades, and their facility in the UK reflects a serious commitment to quality at every step. Because let's be honest, when someone pulls the pin on a fire extinguisher, there can be no compromises. The process begins with steel body manufacturing. Heavy-gauge steel coils are fed into a deep drawing press, which forms the cylindrical body of the extinguisher shell in a series of progressive draws. Deep drawing is a sheet metal forming process where a flat blank is mechanically drawn into a die to produce a seamless cylinder, no welds, no joints, no weak points in the wall. The drawn shells then go through a series of trimming and flanging operations to prepare the open end for the valve neck. A thread rolling machine cuts the internal or external threads that will receive the valve assembly. This connection has to be pressure tight because a charged extinguisher operates at pressures of 10 to 17 bars depending on type. That's roughly 150 to 250 psi, significant pressure that needs a zero-leak seal. Next, the cylinder goes through a hydraulic pressure test, filled with water and pressurized to twice its rated working pressure. This hydrostatic test proves the vessel can withstand extreme overpressure without yielding or leaking. Any cylinder that shows deformation or weeping at the joints is scrapped immediately. Once the shell passes testing, it moves to the surface preparation and painting line. Surfaces are chemically cleaned and phosphated to promote adhesion, then powder-coated in the familiar fire engine red, the international color code for fire equipment. The powder coat is cured in an oven at around 200 degrees Celsius, bonding a tough, corrosion-resistant finish to the steel. The extinguishing agent, whether that's dry powder, CO2, foam, or water mist, is then metered and filled through the valve port under controlled conditions. Dry powder extinguishers are filled by weight. CO2 types are filled by mass of liquid carbon dioxide under pressure. Every fill is weighed and recorded. The valve assembly, a precision-machined brass or stainless steel unit containing the discharge head, safety pin, pressure gauge, and siphon tube, is torqued into the neck to a specific value, and then charged with the propellant gas, typically nitrogen. A final inspection covers everything: check weight, gauge reading, pin and tamper seal installation, label application with manufacturer date, lot number, and service interval marking. The extinguisher is then individually packaged and logged into the traceability system. What comes off the end of Britannia's production line isn't just a red can. It's a device that someone may one day grab in the worst moment of their life, needing it to work perfectly. And because of the discipline in every step of this process, it will. Today, we're looking at 3 classic methods for forming a wire rope eye. First, the Flemish Eye, the gold standard for strength and reliability. The rope strands are separated, reversed, and relaid back around a thimble in a mirror image splice. It retains up to 95% of the rope's rated breaking strength and is the preferred choice for critical lifting applications. Next is the Turnback Eye, simpler and faster to make. The rope is looped back on itself and secured with wire rope clips. It's widely used in rigging and construction, though it requires careful torquing of the clips to achieve safe efficiency ratings. Finally, the hand-tucked splice, the traditional sailor's art. Each individual strand is manually unlaid and woven back through the standing rope in sequential tucks. Skilled riggers have been making these by hand for centuries.